Alright, we're back, and now we're transitioning from pro wrestling to sports now. Of course, I did mention that I was going to go over the free agency moves that took place over the weekend. That's not what this video was about, but I do want to highlight the key piece of the weekend, which obviously is Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, man. I'm not going to say I didn't see this coming, but this is really, really intriguing to me because, wow, what this does for the Mavericks. But I know a lot of Lakers fans, shout out to my boy D Mamba, they got to be a bit disappointed. I mean, and as it turns out, Klay's dad, Michael, pitched Klay heavy to join the Lakers. It still wasn't enough somehow. I mean, I guess he wasn't looking forward to a future with Bronny James. I don't know. I'm sorry, but it's just interesting to me. Really, I feel like, if nothing else, Klay Thompson adds a lot of the same things to each side. I think, if nothing else, Klay definitely gives him a better shot at beating Boston should there be a rematch in next year's finals. I don't know if I even see Boston being there, but I kind of doubt that, even with this move, that it's going to necessarily be the Mavericks, just depending on the moves that the Denver Nuggets make, for one. And then, of course, there's a lot of other things that have been going on that, again, I'll go over with the free agency video upcoming. Might actually not be till tomorrow, but we'll see how that goes. Afternoon or morning, we'll see. But either way, this is just really intriguing to me because, you know, I'm not going to say that this necessarily puts them over the top, because you got to think about what we saw with the finals here. I mean, and I talked about this. The defensive rotation that they have, Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, can guard multiple positions on the floor. And it really doesn't even matter what your dynamic is. You're going to have a bunch of different looks being thrown at you. And that's before we go into the guys coming off the bench. You know. And I feel like there was at least one or two other pieces that they were missing that, you know, just make that even wilder to think about. But either way, could this be a better matchup to go against the Celtics? Should that be something we see next year, Mavericks and Celtics in the finals next year? It certainly does. I mean, it does nothing but help the Mavericks. Does it put them over the Celtics necessarily? I don't know that it necessarily does. It's going to make it a lot more interesting. I say we'd get more than 5 games this time around. But it's certainly going to be really, really intriguing to see. It's like the difference that there was from the 2015 finals, where there was no Kyrie, no Kevin Love alongside LeBron, and then the next year where you had both of them available. And granted, there were some iffy aspects of that, but that's basically the kind of difference that we're talking about there. Does it necessarily mean the same kind of outcome to where the Mavericks win this time? I don't know. I'm not going to say yes to that. That's more than I want to say. I'd like to think with a lot of the pieces that they have back and healthy, I wouldn't rule it out. I really wouldn't rule it out, and it'd be fun to watch this time around, or if it should happen. But nonetheless, speaking of things that don't seem to be happening anytime right away, I couldn't help but want to talk about this guy right here. Man, good old John Gruden, or I guess maybe not so good, depending on who you ask. This is wild. This is something I came across just combing through ESPN's website. And turns out John Gruden lost a bid for the Nevada Supreme Court to reconsider whether a contract interference or conspiracy lawsuit that he filed against the NFL would actually be heard in court or private arbitration. And this was, of course, as a result of him resigning from the Las Vegas Raiders a few years back. And to me, I'm not really sure how much of a difference this makes. Now, it's interesting because the details of this article are really, really profound. I mean, it does talk about how, of course, the lawsuit, which originated back in 2021, November of 2021 specifically, which was, of course, with allegedly the league leaking photos and all sorts of things. Well, leaking racist, sexist, and homophobic emails that I don't know why I said photos. I deal with so many photos here, as you can see. But anyways, a bunch of emails that pretty much he was sending and replying to whatever during his ESPN days. I mean, golly, it just is crazy the things that went on with this company at one point. But nonetheless, it's incredibly wild to me. I think about this man and just, it seemed to me for a long time he was probably the new John Madden. I mean, it was hard to imagine, and it's not even so much just the fact that he was with the Raiders. I mean, that's just a coincidence in and of itself. But, you know, legendary coach, I mean, ended up in the broadcast booth as actually seemed like for a long time he was probably the best color guy in the business. I mean, it just almost wasn't even close. And you had guys like Chris Collinsworth came along. Of course, Madden was still doing his thing for a while until retiring all those years ago before ultimately passing away. Rest in peace, Coach. Thank you, Coach, and all that. You know, it seemed like he had that similar trajectory. I don't really remember him having much of a playing career, but he had a similar trajectory in that regard, and it's just sad to know that this is what took away from that. And he was actually seeming like he was starting to find strides when it came to Derek Carr during his second stint with the Raiders. And it actually made the Raiders look like they were going to be interesting. But sadly, this took away from that, and doesn't seem like anything about that's ever going to change. But with that in mind, I do need to talk about this. So over the weekend, Alex Pereira, UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira, had a successful title defense. I keep forgetting the name. I want to say it was the former light heavyweight champion that held the belt for a while before him, but really hard to say. I don't know all the details on that, and it goes to show how badly I've been about not following mixed martial arts over the last few years. But if there's anything that would absolutely turn me back around into that, it's this. Now, I do have to admit, I am no longer using Hulu Live at this point in time, so I'm no longer subscribed to that. I am contemplating what move I want to make next, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be that. I haven't ruled out using Hulu Live, but that's a whole other subject for another day and time, and I don't think y'all really care about that anyway. I want to talk about this specifically because, again, I haven't had Hulu Live, and I say that largely because I've been watching a lot of Pluto TV. Pluto does have a lot of live streaming content, specifically channels for Bellator MMA and PFL respectively, which is Pro Fighters League, which has also been known to be aired on ESPN, similar to UFC. I'm not sure if that's still the case now. I know they had been a number of months ago, but I don't remember when their last broadcast was. Either way, I say all that to segue back into this, you know. I've been really finding a bit more of the itch and seeing names that I hadn't seen in a long time, the likes of a Benson Henderson, Chael Sonnen, even Big John McCarthy, who was commentary for Bellator for some time, and also, speaking of commentary, Mike Goldberg, who is their main announce guy now. I mean, it's just wild, and I guess I'm slowly getting back into it, but I think if there's ever going to be anything that really pushes me heavy into this, it's this. As I feel as though if there's anyone who I could see having a really good shot at beating John Jones, as that individual has still yet to materialize, it may very well be Alex Pereira. I'm gonna have to work on that too, but I saw his fight before this last one with, I believe it was Jamal Hill, I think it was. Either way, just the way he ended up finishing that the way that he did, as strong and profoundly as he did, woo-wee. I mean, my God, like, all I could think, and they even talked about it in that fight too. He walks around apparently at about 236. And even Joe Rogan that night was like, how the hell was this dude making 185? I gotta wonder that myself, but either way, knowing all of those things, again, can we get this? Can we get this? I mean, Dana, what do we gotta do? Because that's another question I gotta ask. Where has John Jones been lately? He had a title match where he won the heavyweight title against Cyril Gane. I don't know where Cyril Jones came from. Jeez. Cyril Gane, and actually dominated him, similar to how Pereira dominated Hall or Hill or whoever that was. He clearly dominated his most recent opponent, but either way, I feel like this is something fans ought to be wanting to see. I don't know if it's been talked about, but maybe I'll get that ball rolling. And with that in mind, y'all know what it is. Let me know what y'all think down below. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe if y'all are new and if y'all enjoyed. And I am A&J. There will be more to come.